In 1920, a 16-year-old named Deng Xiaoping boarded a ship in Shanghai bound for France. He was traveling with a specific patriotic goal: to find a way to modernize a China that was fractured by warlords and bullied by foreign powers. Deng brought a restless skepticism to this journey. As a child, when his friends were too afraid to approach a sacred stone turtle for fear of divine punishment, Deng climbed onto its head and danced, telling them he wanted to see if the gods actually had any power. He was part of a work-study movement, a program where thousands of young Chinese would take jobs in French factories to pay for an education in Western science and industry. At this stage, Deng and his peers viewed Western technology and governance as the essential model for saving their country from total collapse. The journey lasted 39 days, a 31,000-mile voyage that took the teenagers through the ports of Southeast Asia, the Indian Ocean, and the Suez Canal. During a layover in Saigon, the reality of colonial life became visible. They saw French authorities forcing locals to learn a foreign language and pay taxes on basic necessities like footwear. In every port, from Singapore to the British concessions in China, they witnessed Europeans treating Asians as laborers in their own cities. It was a pattern of humiliation that left the students deeply resentful. While Deng had traveled to Europe to learn from the West, the voyage provided a different kind of education, a first-hand look at how global powers maintained their dominance. When Deng arrived in France, the promised prosperity was gone. The country was struggling through a post-war economic depression, making the students' plans impossible. This chart tracks the French economy in the early 1920s. As unemployment surged, the value of the franc collapsed, causing prices to skyrocket. The funding for the work-study program vanished almost instantly. Thousands of students were left with nothing. They lived in courtyard tents and ate half-cooked potatoes to save money on fuel, suffering through chronic malnutrition and disease. The hope of studying at a French university was replaced by a singular daily struggle to avoid starvation. Deng eventually found work at the Crucible steel factory. For a teenager, the work was punishing. He hauled coal across the factory floor, rotating day and night shifts in the intense heat of the furnaces. His daily wage was only 10 francs, but he was required to buy his own work clothes for 30 francs. He was essentially paying for the right to be exhausted. He quit the steel mill after only a month. To stay alive, he spent the next few years as a migrant laborer, sweeping dirty floors, carrying luggage at train stations, and assembling paper flowers. This period of manual labor provided Deng with a clear view of how industrial systems could exploit desperate workers for minimal gain. While working these odd jobs, Deng met older, politically active students like Zhao Enlai, who were organizing the Chinese workers in Paris. Deng began reading Marxist pamphlets and revolutionary magazines, seeking an explanation for the economic collapse and the inequality he saw every day. Marxism provided him with a structural framework to understand his own experiences, linking his poverty and the racism he faced in the ports to a broader global system. In 1922, he formally joined the Communist Youth League in Europe. He stopped dreaming of an academic career and spent his nights mimeographing journals and writing articles for the movement. Deng adopted communism as a practical solution to the hunger and exploitation he had faced as a laborer. 5 years in France replaced Deng's youthful expectations with a focus on survival and results. This focus became his defining political trait. He had seen the power of industrialization, but he had also felt its cost. Decades later, when he took control of the Chinese economy, he famously advocated for crossing the river by feeling the stones, a philosophy that prioritized testing reality over following rigid dogmas. The boy who traveled to Europe to study Western industry returned home with the understanding that for China to be strong, it had to modernize on its own terms, using the same unsentimental logic he learned while struggling to survive in Paris.